Today, Rex Edson pleads guilty to many counts of the indictment. When we first spoke almost over 2.5 years ago, I stressed the importance of a couple of things: the presumption of innocence, the right to have a jury of your peers decide your fate. And those are absolute rights, but just the same, the defendant also has an absolute right to change his plea, to accept responsibility, enter a plea of guilt. Now, as attorneys, we counseled him, we advised him, but that decision is ultimately up to the defendant. He controls his case, and that's his prerogative, that's his right, and that's what happened here today. When Rex decided that he wanted to accept responsibility and didn't want to proceed to trial, from a defense standpoint, we then pivoted and did our best to protect his interest. That included the fact that he's going to cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Analysis Unit. And as you heard the district attorney, there will be no further prosecutions in regards to these 8 victims. The district attorney's office of Suffolk County did an excellent job. I'll commend them. They deserve all the accolades. I've been reviewing this case for over 2.5 years. I can't express to you, and I know we've talked about it on many different dates, the volume of evidence and discovery. They did a great job. They really did a great job of gathering the evidence, going down. They went down hundreds of rabbit holes, and when you look at the amount of evidence and you connect the dots, they really did a great job. And I'm talking about the investigators, the detectives, the experts, the assistant district attorneys. So I'm sure that the families of the victims are very grateful to the district attorney, and the people in this county should be as well. This was an unprecedented case, and I can tell you that I am very fortunate to have had a legal team that helped me on this over the course of the last 2.5 years. I don't know where Mr. Capone is, and Mr. Fuchs. They are excellent writers, and we battled this from day one, and we were prepared from day one to try this case. Chase Brown has been an excellent help in terms of everything we've been doing. He is a rising star in this county. My co-pilot Danielle Coyce, she really put together that Friday hearing. That was such a monumental hearing here in New York State, and she's organized and came up with such crafty arguments during the course of this case. So I'm really grateful for their help. We really were, in my opinion, zealous. We did our best to be competent and effective during the course of this prosecution and the defense. One of the things that I was very mindful of and made a deliberate point is we attacked the evidence. We never attacked these young ladies, these victims. That was never our objective. We never said a bad word about them, and they ran into some tough times. They were all beautiful young ladies. Their mothers, their daughters, their sisters, I can go on and on. But it was never about attacking them. It was always about attacking the evidence. So I think that this today gave hopefully some peace and some closure to the family members. This case is over from our standpoint. We heard the prosecutor indicate there will be no further prosecutions in exchange for his plea of guilty, as well as his cooperation with the Federal Bureau of Investigations and Behavioral Analysis Unit. I respect the press and their role in the criminal justice system, so I'm happy to take some questions to the best that I can.
What changed and when? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well,
he had insisted on
I can't give you our conversations that are confidential, but I will say to you that there came a point in this defense where Rex said, I want to plead guilty. And it was at that point when we really had an objective of protecting his interest.
Has he spoken to Asa?
Has he spoken to Asa? I don't know. You have to discuss.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the parameters of the FBI cooperation? Because we couldn't really hear you on the mic well when you mentioned that in court. And what does that mean for a potential federal prosecution of Rex, if at all?
Yeah, I'm not at liberty to discuss that. All I can say is he has an obligation to cooperate fully, completely with the Federal Bureau of Investigation Analysis Unit.
Ms. Brown,
Yes, sir.
this plea comes sometime after the judge ruled on DNA. Was that part of the calculation that there was just another obstacle in the way to try to prove his innocence versus pleading guilty?
Well, we don't have to prove innocence, obviously.
Well, not prove innocence,
but I understand your question. Yeah, I mean,
another
listen,
feather.
there a couple of things that were major decisions in this case from a strategic standpoint for the defense. In terms of likelihood of success at trial, so to speak, the judge's ruling on the Fry hearing was monumental. Yes, that's a big deal, because if you remember, you have mitochondrial DNA, and the statistical likelihood is not that great. I feel like I'm a broken record, but that was 2.5 years ago. We talked about that. But once that nuclear DNA comes into play, those statistics, as portrayed by this expert, they're off the charts. So that's a major part of how successful you're going to be at trial. Another major part is our motion to sever, which Ms. Koish wrote a great motion on that, because we didn't think, we suggested that the cumulative effect would have been so overwhelming, and the court disagreed with us, and the court permitted all of the counts in the indictment to remain together. That's a big win for the prosecution.
Mr. Brown, you yourself told us many times that you believed he was not the guy. When did your thoughts on that change?
Well, my thoughts aren't. At some point, he admitted responsibility to us and indicated that he wanted to proceed the trial. So I don't sit there and judge a case. Our objective and our job is to be zealous advocates for the client, right? That's what we do. We do it on every single case. A good lawyer is going to advocate for their client. That's what we've been doing from day one.